So let's begin with the explanation of the story Quality by John Galsworthy. And please understand that this story is from the Inn of Tranquility by John Galsworthy, right? So this story actually talks about a very important theme, and that theme is about the hardships of true artists that actually happened during Industrial Revolution. It was the time when small scale industries, small scale artists had to suffer a lot because too much of commercialism was taking place. And because of that, advertising and this commercialization somehow affected these small scale industries and their artists to such an extent that it became difficult for them to manage their living. Now, somewhere, this situation is applicable even today. The way we all have become brand freaks now, the way we want to buy from big showrooms, from big stores, and we do not pay much heed to these small shops and shopkeepers. So, everybody can't have a big showroom, everybody can't manage with these many expenses to be spent on advertising and all that. But these days the world has become like this. So this story somehow gives us that idea how these small shopkeepers and sometimes very good artists, sometimes very good craftsmen suffer because of this tendency. All right, so let's begin with the story. I knew him from the days of my extreme youth. Now, please understand, I here refers to the narrator, whom we assume to be the writer of the story as well. All right. I knew him from the days of my extreme youth. Extreme youth here refers to his childhood, we can say, because he made my father's boots. Inhabiting means living with his elder brother, two little shops let into one, in a small by street now no more, but then most fashionably placed in the West End. Now, please understand, if we talk about the setting of this story, so this shop of this artist who is being talked about in this story, the shop was there at West End, England. At that time, his shop was most fashionably placed. But in present scenario, this small by street now no more. All right. It was a small by street in West End, and his shop was fashionably placed where two shops were merged into one, but now it is not found anymore. The tenement had a certain quiet distinction. Now, tenement, you can say that large building, that where, or you can say the kind of large building divided into small apartments. All right. So it had a certain quiet distinction, means it could be distincted easily. There was no sign upon its face, means there was no sign on the front that he made for any of the royal family, merely his own German name of Gessler brothers. So in front, there was nothing placed as for publicity. Though he was making shoes for royal family, but he never advertised that. All right, only his name, Gessler brothers. All right, why? Because they were two brothers living together. We have been told in the first paragraph. And in the window, a few pair of boots. And in that window, there was a window, and so, a few pair of boots were hanging over there as a kind of indication that it is a shop for shoes. All right, it's a sort of boot house. I remember that it always troubled me to account for those unwearing boots in the window, for he made only what was ordered, reaching nothing down, and it seemed so inconceivable that what he made could ever have failed to fit. The author somehow he used to, it was beyond his understanding, and he could never understand that why were those unchangeable, those boots were never changed. जो दो तीन pair of shoes जो वहां hang थे as an advertisement, they were never changed. And he always wondered, like, how come is it that he has got these shoes? Because otherwise he only made what was ordered. he always used to make shoes on order. It's not that he would keep some specimen ready. All right. So it was, it seemed so inconceivable. It was beyond his understanding that what he made could ever fail to fit. Now, another quality that has been given, another feature of this artist was that whatever he made could never fail to fit. All right. His shoes were always best fitted. Had he bought them to put there? He always used to wonder, क्या मतलब ये जो शूज उसने लटकाए हुए हैं, क्या ये खरीद के लाया उनको वहां पर हैंग करने के लिए? That too seemed inconceivable. He would never have tolerated in his house leather on which he had not worked himself. Now, another feature of him. Okay, please underline these things. He would never tolerate in his house the leather on which he himself has not worked. What does it mean? That he never used to have any people, employed over there to work on the shoes. He used to make the shoes on his own. Besides, in addition, they were too beautiful, and the shoes that he made were too beautiful. Now, different kinds of shoes he could make, the pair of pumps, so inexpressibly slim, the patent leathers with cloth tops, making water come into one's mouth, the tall brown riding boots with marvelous sooty glow, as if, though new, they had been worn 100 years. So, you see, here you will find that the author has very beautifully expressed the kind of feeling. Anyone who loves shoes, anyone who is very fond of having different kind of foot gears, so for that person, these Gessler brothers, especially the artists, they used to make such beautiful shoes of all types that, even he goes to the extent of saying having water in one's mouth. All right. Those pairs could only have been made by one who saw before him the sole of the boot. The kind of shoes that Gessler brothers used to make, and especially this Gessler brother used to make, only that person can make such shoes who can see the sole of boot. He understood everything about boots. So truly were they prototypes incarnating the very spirit of all footgear. Incarnating means giving human form. All right, giving human form of all footgears. These thoughts, of course, came to me later, though even when I was promoted to him at the age of perhaps 14, some inkling haunted me of the dignity of himself and his brother. Now, inkling, you can say, is a kind of clue or hint. Now he talks about the time when he was promoted to them, when he was 14, because before that he was a kid. And now when he was 14, as a teenager, he started going to him for getting the shoes made for himself. And it was at that time when he had the personal interaction with these people that he could understand, he could have the hint or the clue of some kind of dignity. There was some sort of dignity about himself and his brother. For to make boots, such boots as he made, seemed to me then, and still seems to me, mysterious and wonderful. Now, this line somehow talks about the author's feelings about these artists. All right. He says that the kind of boots he made, there was something very mysterious and wonderful about them. Why mysterious? Because it was inconceivable for him. He couldn't understand. I remember well my shy remark one day while stretching out to him my youthful foot. Isn't it awfully hard to do, Mr. Gessler? And his answer, given with a sudden smile from out of the sardonic redness of his beard, it is an art. All right. Now, you see, sardonic, please understand, it means mocking, making fun of something. All right. So he had that sardonic redness on his beard. And with that, when the author asked him, isn't it difficult? So he said that it is an art. Please understand, because being a German, his accent is such. So that's why it has been written like this, to give us the feel. Himself, he was a little as if made from leather, with his yellow, crinkly face and crinkly reddish hair and beard, and neat folds slanting down his cheeks to the corners of his mouth, and his guttural and one-toned voice, for leather is a sardonic substance and stiff and slow of purpose. Now, here you can see the author has made a kind of comparison between leather and the kind of appearance that this Gessler brother had. All right. He's the younger brother about whom we are talking. Because this younger brother was actually the artist. He used to live with his elder brother. The elder brother would help him in his work, but ultimately, it was the younger brother who used to make shoes. Okay. And that was the character of his face. Save that his eyes, which were grey blue, had in them the simple gravity of one secretly possessed by the ideal. So, in his eyes, he had simple gravity. Gravity is the kind of seriousness, of someone who's secretly possessed by an ideal, because he was a kind of ideal, in his work. His brother was so very like him, though watery. Now, till here, we have the description of the younger brother. All right, please understand. Description of the younger Gessler, younger brother. His elder brother was so very like him, though watery, paler in every way, with a great industry that sometimes in early days I was not quite sure of him until the interview was over. Then I knew that it was he, if the word, I will ask my brother, okay, this is brother, Brother. I will ask my brother, had not been spoken, and that if they had, it was his elder brother. So somehow both of them shared same looks. And the author says that it was very difficult for him to differentiate between them. If at the end of the conversation this remark comes, I will ask my brother, it means that he is the elder brother. If this remark doesn't come, it means he is talking to the younger brother. Otherwise, it was very difficult for him to differentiate who was the elder one and who was the younger. He looked at me for a, sorry. When one grew old and wild and ran up bills, one somehow never ran them up with Gessler brothers. It would not have seemed becoming to go in there and stretch out one's foot to that blue iron spectacle glance, owing him for more than, say, two pairs, just the comfortable reassurance that one was still his client. For it was not possible to go to him very often. His boots lasted terribly, having something beyond the temporary, some, as it were, essence of boot stitched into them. Now, the author talks about one more very different and unique kind of quality. You see, he wasn't the kind of shopkeeper that you will go and you will find the bill. You'll just pay your money, and your money can be wasted also because the boots are not so good enough. No, it would never happen. All right. It's not that you'll just go there, you'll stretch your foot to that man, and you'll just say two pairs and it'll be. See, because you can't go to him frequently. Why? Because his boots lasted terribly. Okay. They used to, the boots used to be in good condition for a long time. All right. One went in, not as into most shops, in the mood of please serve me and let me go, but restfully as one enters a church. And sitting on the single wooden chair, waited, for there was never anybody there. Soon, over the top edge of that sort of well, rather dark and smelling soothingly of leather, which formed the shop, there would be seen his face or that of his elder brother peering down, a guttural sound and the tip tap of the brass slippers beating the narrow wooden stairs, and he would stand before one without coat, a little bent, in leather apron, with sleeves turned back, blinking, as if awakened from some dream of boots, or like an owl surprised in daylight and annoyed at this interruption. Now, here we are told about the kind of ritual. It was a kind of ritual, to go to his shop. It's not that you will go over there and you'll say, please serve me and let me go. No. It would be a time-taking affair. All right. And why? Because you will have to go there as if you are entering a church. Okay. Then there was a wooden chair. You'll sit on that chair. You'll have to wait. The workshop of the Gesslers was there on the top edge over there. It was very dark, smelling of leather, and somehow somebody, either the younger one or the elder one, would peep from there. He would see that somebody is there. Then that guttural sound, tip tap of the slippers, beating on wooden stairs. He would come down, and then he would stand before the customer without coat and in his leather apron. Why? Because he was always working. Okay, sleeves turned back, blinking. Why blinking? As if, as if he has awakened from some dream of boots, because he was working, he was busy over there. Now he has come to attend the client. And I would say, how do you do, Mr. Gessler? Could you make me a pair of Russia leather boots? Without a word, he would leave me, retiring whence is from where he came, or into the other portion of the shop, and I would continue to rest in the wooden chair, inhaling the incense of his trade. Soon he would come back, holding in his thin, veined hand a piece of gold brown leather. With eyes fixed on it, he would remark, "What a beautiful piece." And I too had admired it. He would speak again. "When do you want them? Huh? When do you want them?" This is what he asked. And I would answer, "Oh, as soon as you conveniently can." And he would say, "Tomorrow fortnight." Okay, means after 15 days. Or if he were his elder brother, "I will ask my brother." Okay, so you see, now the author is telling us the kind of interaction he had with him when he used to go to him to get to order a pair of shoes. Then I would murmur, "Thank you, good morning, Mr. Gessler." "Good morning," he would reply, still looking at the leather in his hand. And as I moved to the door, I would hear the tip tap of his bass slippers restoring him up the stairs to his dream of boots. But if it were some new kind of footgear that he had not yet made me, then indeed he would observe ceremony, divesting me of my boot and holding it long in his hand, looking at it with eyes at once critical and loving, as if recalling the glow with which he had created it, and rebuking the way in which one had disorganized this masterpiece. Then, placing my foot on a piece of paper, he would 2 or 3 times tickle the outer edges with a pencil and pass his nervous fingers over my toes, feeling himself into the heart of my requirements. Now, you see, from this description, you can very easily understand that Gessler was a person who loved his profession. It's not that making shoes was just a kind of, what do you say, that it was just uh, you know, a way of earning money or a way of earning his living. No, it wasn't like that. Rather, he loved his job. Okay, and whenever he got a challenge in his job, that if he is making some kind of shoe for the first time, he would take it as a ceremony. All right, I cannot forget that day on which I had occasion to say to him, "Mr. Gessler, the last pair of town walking boots creaked. Now you see, he's telling us about an incident when he went to him and told him about his shoes which creaked. So he says he looked at me for a time without replying, as if expecting me to withdraw or qualify the statement, then said, "It shouldn't have creaked." All right, it shouldn't have creaked. It did, I'm afraid. You got them wet, you got them. Huh? You got them wet before they found themselves. I don't think so. At that, he lowered his eyes as if hunting for money of those boots, and I felt sorry I had mentioned this grave thing. "Send them back. All right, send them back," he said. "I will look at them." A feeling of compassion for my creaking boots surged up in me, so well I imagine the sorrowful long curiosity of regard which he would bend on them. Just wait, I need to take some water. A feeling of compassion for my creaking boots surged up in me, so well could I imagine the sorrowful long curiosity of regard which he would bend on them. "Some boots," he said slowly. No, it's some. "Some boots," he said slowly, "are bad from birth. all right, from the beginning, are bad from birth. If I can do nothing with them, I take them off your bill. All right. Now, from this, we come to know that he treated his customers very well. It's not only about earning the profit. You can always find a kind of guarantee in his work. All right. This kind of accountability somehow is missing these days. Okay. But he wasn't so. If he has, he was always very sure about his products. And if something wrong has happened, like the product has, like his shoes hasn't, the way the author here tells that his shoes creaked. So he is such a person who want them back. He will see what happened. He will repair them. And if nothing can be done, he'll pay the money back. Okay. Once only, I went absent-mindedly into his shop in a pair of boots bought in an emergency at some large firms. He took my order without showing me any leather, and I could feel his eyes penetrating the inferior integument of my foot. Now he tells another anecdote from his life, like another incident. And he said that once absent-mindedly, he went to his shoes when he was wearing someone else's shoes. All right, a pair of shoes which he must have bought from some very big shop, from a large firm. So he took the order, but his eyes were continuously penetrating. They were continuously looking into the inferior integument in the cover of my foot. Those are not my boots. And he could easily identify them. He said, those are not my boots. The tone was not one of anger. वो कोई गुस्सा नहीं था. Nor of sorrow. कोई दुखी नहीं था. Not even of contempt. और कोई ऐसा भी नहीं था that he was having some feeling of contempt, like, you know, any hard feeling towards the author. But there was in it something quiet that froze the blood. He put his hand down and pressed a finger on a place where the left boot, endeavoring to be fashionable, was not quite comfortable. He just put his finger on the left boot somewhere where the boot was not at all comfortable. It hurts you there. And see, he was not wearing the shoes, but still he understood. And he said, it hurts you there. He said, those big firms have no self-respect. Trash. He calls the boots trash. And then, as if something had given way within him, he spoke long and bitterly. It was the only one time I ever heard him discuss the conditions and hardships of his trade. So it was for the first time that the author could know the difficulties of this artist. They get it all, he said. They, they get it all, he said. They get it by advertisement and by work, not work, not by work. Their work is not good, but they get the orders by advertisement. They take it away from us. It here refers to work. They take it away from us who love our boots. We are the people who love our boots, who love our profession, who love our work, but they take all the work from us. Why? With the help of advertisements. It comes to this, he says, it comes to this presently, I have no work. Every year it gets less, you will see. And looking at his lined face, I saw things I had never noticed before. Bitter things and bitter struggle. And what a lot of gray hairs there seemed suddenly in his red beard. Somehow it was for the first time the author could realize the kind of struggle that this artist was facing. Mr. Gessler told it very clearly, told him that he didn't have any work at that time. The work was getting less and less each day. All right. As best I could, I explained the circumstances of the purchase of those ill-omened boots. But his face and voice made so deep impression that during the next few minutes, I ordered many pairs. Nemesis fell. They lasted more terribly than ever. Nemesis, the curse. And I was not able consciously to go to him for nearly 2 years. Okay, so once the author realized his condition, so he ordered many pairs. And after that, it wasn't possible for him to visit him for 2 years. Okay, when at last I went, I was surprised to find that outside one of the two little windows of his shop, another name was painted, also that of a bootmaker, making, of course, for the royal family. Now, the next time after 2 years, when he visited the shop, he found that now two shops were, earlier two shops were merged into one, but now on one of the shops, another name was written of another bootmaker, and there was also written that he makes for royal family. The old familiar boots, no longer in dignified isolation, were huddled in the single window. Those boots were huddled, they were they were hanging in the single window. Inside, the now contracted well of the one little shop was more scented and darker than ever. And it was longer than usual too, before a face peered down and the tip tap of the brass slippers began. At last he stood before me and gazing through those rusty iron spectacles said, now please understand here, we are given the difference, all right? How it was before 2 years and how was it now? Mr. Isn't it? Ah, Mr. Gessler, I stammered. But your boots are really too good, you know. See, these are quite decent still. And I stretched out to him my foot. He looked at it. Yes, he said. People do not, please understand. People do not want good boots, it seems. Now the author was in all praises for his boots. But somehow, he was a bit lost and he just said that people do not want good boots. It seems that people do not want good boots. To get away from his reproachful eyes and voice, I hastily remarked, what have you done to your shop? He answered quietly, it was too expensive. All right, so somehow from this we come to know that they were undergoing a financial crisis. Do you want some boots? I ordered 3 pairs, though I had only wanted 2, and quickly left. I do not know quite what a feeling of being part in his mind of a conspiracy against him, or not perhaps so much against him as against his idea of boot. One does not, I suppose, care to feel like that. For it was again many months before my next visit to his shop, paid, I remember, with the feeling, oh well, I can't leave the old boy, so here goes. Perhaps it'll be his elder brother. Now you see, the next time he visited him after 2 months, it was with an idea to visit him. The author somehow realized that there was something about the old boy that he couldn't leave him. All right, he always wanted to be in his contact. So he thought that perhaps it will be his elder brother. For his elder brother, I knew, had not character enough to reproach me even dumbly. And to my relief, in the shop, there did appear to be his elder brother handling a piece of leather. So somehow he thought that, okay, it's better if elder brother is there because he doesn't have that reproachful eyes the way younger one had. Well, Mr. Gessler, I said, how are you? He came close and peered at me. I am pretty well, he said slowly, but my elder brother is dead. And I saw that it was indeed himself. But how aged and wan? Wan, you understand? Like pale, dull and pale. And never before had I heard him mention his brother. Much shocked, I murmured, oh, I am sorry. Yes, he answered. He was a good man. He made a good boot. But he is dead. And he touched the top of his head, where the hair had suddenly gone as thin as it had been on that of his poor brother to indicate, I suppose, the cause of death. He could not get over losing the other shop. Do you want any boots? And he held up the leather in his hand. It is a beautiful piece. Now you see, here we find the younger one being very sad and sorrowful, and he seemed aged. He was looking like his elder brother. And he told him the reason of the death of his brother also, that he could not get over the fact that the other shop was sold. I ordered several pairs. It was very long before they came, but they were better than ever. One simply could not wear them out. And soon after that, I went abroad. So he ordered several pairs, and of course, it took a long time for them to come, but then they were better than ever, the best quality. And after that, the author had to leave for abroad. It was over a year before I was again in London. And the first shop I went to was my old friend's. I had left a man of 60. I came to I came back to one of 75. In 1 year only, a lot of change. Pinched and worn and tremulous, who genuinely this time did not at first know me. Now you see, tremulous, you understand, like one who is quivering, trembling with weakness. All right. So he found that he was very old. His body was shaking due to weakness, very worn out kind of expressions he had. Oh, Mr. Gessler, I said, sick at heart. Sick at heart. Please understand, the author had feelings for him. He felt really bad when he saw him in that condition. How splendid your boots are. See, I've been wearing this pair nearly all the time I have been abroad, and they are not half worn out, are they? He looked long at my boots, a pair of Russia leather, and his face seemed to regain steadiness. Putting his hand on my instep, he said, do they with you here? I had trouble with that pair, I remember. I assured him that they had fitted beautifully. Do you want any boots? He said. I can make them quickly. It is a slack time. So they were undergoing a kind of slack recession when there was no work at all. I answered, please, please, I want boots all round, every kind. I will make a fresh model. All right. So he assured that he'll make a fresh model. Your foot must be bigger. And with utter slowness, he traced round my foot and felt my toes, only once looking up to say, did I tell you my brother was dead? To watch him was painful. So feeble had he grown. I was glad to get away. I had given those boots up when one evening they came. Opening the parcel, I set the 4 pairs out in a row. Then one by one, I tried on them. I tried them on. There was no doubt about it. In shape and fit, in finish and quality of leather, they were the best he had ever made me. And in the mouth of one of the town walking boots, I found his bill. The amount was the same as usual, but it gave me quite a shock. He had never before sent it till quarter day. I flew downstairs and wrote a check and posted it at once with my own hand. So you see, he got the shoes, they were the best, but this time something different happened. And it was shocking for the author because he found the bill with the shoes. He never used to send the bill with the shoes. All right. This was for the first time. And somehow the author was able to understand that he is in need of money. That's why he immediately wrote a check and posted at once. A week later, passing the little street, I thought I would go in and tell him how splendidly the new boots fitted. But when I came to where his shop had been, his name was gone. Still there in the window were the slim pumps, the patent leathers with cloth tops, the sooty riding boots. I went in, very much disturbed. In the 2 little shops, again made into one, was a young man with an English face. Mr. Gessler in, I said. He gave me a strange, ingratiating looks. Ingratiating, favoring looks. No, sir, he said. No, but we can attend to anything with pleasure. We have taken the shop over. You have seen our name, no doubt, next door. We make for some very good people. Yes, yes, I said, but Mr. Gessler? Oh, he answered, dead. Dead? But I only received these boots from him last Wednesday week. Ah, he said, a shocking go. Poor old man starved himself. Good God. Starved himself. He died of starvation. Slow starvation, the doctor called it. You see, he went to work in such a way, would keep the shop on, wouldn't have a soul touch his boots except himself. When he got an order, it took him such a time. People won't wait. He lost everybody. And there he would sit, going on and on. I will say that for him. Not a man in London made a better boot. But look at the competition. He never advertised. Would have the best leather too, and do it all himself. Well, there it is. What could you expect with his ideas? Now see, his ideas, his principles, his ethics are being mocked at. Nobody follows the ethics in business these days, but he was following. He was using the best leather. He was making the best shoes, but then he died of starvation, hunger, poverty. But starvation? That may be a bit flory, as the saying is, but I know myself he was sitting over his boots day and night to the very last. You see, I used to watch him. Never gave himself time to eat, never had a penny in the house. All went in rent and leather. How he lived so long, I don't know. He regular let his fire go out. He was a character, but he made good boots. Yes, I said, he made good boots. And I turned and went out quickly, for I did not want that youth to know that I could hardly see. Why? Because his eyes had tears. I did not want to show the tears, and that's why he just moved away from there. I hope this story is clear.